So match number 4, we had Rusev versus Mark Henry. This was really quick, borderline squash match. Rusev just all it took was 2 super kicks, and that was it.
Yeah. What did you think about him winning by pinfall? Do you like that they're kind of establishing this super kick as a stronger move? I mean, it pinned
I
Cesaro
like
one
it. Yeah,
time.
I mean, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I like that after it pinned Cesaro, they didn't just say, "Oh, well, that was just a fluke," and they were just both so worn out. They're actually trying to establish that super kick now as a devastating maneuver, and all of the meanwhile, they're making Cesaro look stronger too,
Absolutely. And I
because the
think
more
what
powerful they make that move look, that kind of just like retcons, like, oh wow, I guess Cesaro getting beat by a super kick wasn't a bad thing after all, right?
Right. Yeah, that's an excellent point, Ashton. Excellent point. And what I really think I like about this is it's not even about the fact that, oh, we got to build up this maneuver to compensate, for when Rusev can't get the accolade on a particular athlete. Because he's shown, I mean, he's worked with the big shows and the Mark Henrys, and he's gotten the accolade on them. He could get that move on anybody. It's
Yeah,
the idea that he is, I like it because remember, his moniker is the super athlete.
I
He
mean, I
is the
don't know
super.
if you've been getting these vibes, but it almost feels to me like they're kind of giving him some like almost babyface vibes a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Just
I
not, I
mean,
mean, not anything crazy because obviously he's still in this whole program with Lana and he kind of plays the role of the abusive boyfriend and just ask the NFL how much of a scumbag those people are. I mean, if you can sit through an entire season of the NFL where they just have the camera on the football players and they just don't say a word, and then they come up with the footage or with the caption, domestic abuse is hard to talk about. Like, if you can tolerate that, you get what's going on right now in the WWE as far as Rusev being a heel. So,
right.
obviously, they're not actually trying to turn him into a face, but it just seems like Rusev, I don't know, man. The more I see him work, the more I want to cheer for him. And now they're giving him this like exciting impact finisher with a super kick, which is obviously something that Shawn Michaels did, and he was kind of a heel his entire career. But at the same note, he also got cheered for pretty much his entire career. So that yeah, like it kind of feels like a very similar situation there, just because I don't know. Rusev is supposed to be like the super heel, and he does really dastardly, really awful, despicable things. But I still find myself kind of wanting to cheer for him, just because, you know, I don't even know. I just he just has a natural likability to him.
Well, I mean, not to cut you off, but like he's just so good.
Yeah.
I feel like Rusev is the guy. If you could ask me to devote some time, like if somebody were to ask me, John, if you could praise any wrestler right now, who would it be? It wouldn't even be any of my favorites because my favorites I praise constantly. I would want to take the opportunity to really praise somebody that maybe I don't as often, and it would be Rusev. Because here is a guy that I think we all thought was going to fit a certain mold as a big guy. And dude, I think he's just transcended all expectations, at least for me.
Yeah.
Because I look at this guy, and the worst period for me, or one of, and I'm not even like a Rusev mark or anything, was when he was injured because I enjoy his work and the programs that he's a part
Well, and
of.
even then, like some of the backstage stuff that he did, he has just so much charisma that you could kind of pick up on the vibes and kind of enjoy what he was doing, even if it wasn't anything more than just kind of making a facial expression because he's just so good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the way he just puts away Mark Henry so decisively with, like you said, this impact finisher of a super kick. And again, building on what I was saying earlier to kind of finish that up, he's the super athlete. And
Yeah.
I feel like a super athlete should be able to beat you in a multitude of ways. So I like that Rusev can now say, hey, maybe I don't want to make you tap out. Maybe I just want you to feel the brunt of my boot and pin you and just make you feel like that lesser being after you get kicked in the face
Yeah.
and, pin him that way. I'm telling you, man, if we ever get like a babyface Seth Rollins or something, and he ever like wears the gold again, which I do believe he will. I think I'm going on record. I've said that before.
Oh,
I want to see a heel Rusev versus a babyface Rollins feud for that world title because I think they could do great things together. Rusev's just awesome, really just
absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah, Rusev's
Yeah.
great.
So yeah, he squashes Mark Henry. Or anything else you want to say about this, or can we move on?
We can move on. Another squash match though. Zack Ryder versus King Barrett. I guess this is kind of the WWE's official like let's get Barrett back on track match, but we'll just see how long that lasts.
Yeah, I mean everybody knows that I revel in any opportunity to laugh at Zack Ryder. Didn't really do much laughing here because I was really quite apathetic about both guys. And again, we've gone on so many Barrett diatribes. I'm not really in the mood to have another because I think you guys know how we both feel about him, by now and where he is currently with this gimmick. But he does say, that Zack Ryder's just another imposter in his court, just another pretender when he really holds the throne. And
Yeah.
yeah, Barrett beat Ryder here. It wasn't a bad match by any means, but This is Wade Barrett. I mean, if we want to really be technical, it is, King Barrett, call him by his proper ring name right now. I think he could do more than what he's doing. He's got a great charisma, great presence. I enjoy his in-ring work now, which I wasn't able to really say about him fully a few years ago.
Yeah.
Like
That's the thing too, is that like back when they were really pushing him and like borderline giving him the world title, obviously they never did, but when they were close to it, we never really got that into his ring work. We just liked the way he spoke, and you always talk about how he's a natural leader. But now there really aren't any holes in his character game, whatever you want to call it. He's kind of that 5-star performer.
To me, I could
He's
sum up.
got, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, 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 no. You finish up. You say he's that
Well,
five-star performer?
Well, yeah, all I was going to say was that like he has the look, he has the charisma, he's got the psychology down, his in-ring work is better than ever. He's got the talking ability. Like, how are you not doing more with this guy? How is he not a main eventer by now?
The one just succinct way I could sum up bad news King Barrett. See, I'm calling him by all of his different names tonight. King Barrett's career
I mean, they
presence.
still refer to him as Bad News Barrett.
Right.
It's just not his official name anymore.
Right. The one way I could really sum up King Barrett's career at present is he's in the wrong place at the right time. Because by time, I mean where he is personally as a performer.
Yeah.
He has never been better with the mic, the in-ring, everything. It's just the wrong place. This whole gimmick, everything is the wrong place. And I feel like, and I've said this before, I feel like I'm going to look back on the career of Barrett and I'm going to classify it as a tragedy because the one time he should be a main eventer, we've got Seth Rollins now. We've got Dean Ambrose now. We've got Roman Reigns now. We've got Kevin Owens now. We've got Cesaro now. Bray Wyatt.
Cena, and then you got to go back to all the regulars. Cena and you. Did you already mention Sheamus?
I didn't mention Sheamus, no.
Well, Cena and Sheamus and Orton are the kind of the big three.
Right. And I feel like it's weird because a few years ago, when Barrett wasn't ready, he could have actually filled one of those spots.
Yeah, because that was like before the Shield were in that main event tier and before they were singles competitors.
Right. And so I feel like then he was just, in the right place, but it was the wrong time for him. Now it's the right time for him, but he's just in the wrong place because of this oversaturation of talent. I mean, and this is the downside of having such a stacked roster. In the case of guys like King Barrett, just really such a shame. He squashes Zack Ryder, it ain't going to mean anything. He's going to have like a fallout promo bragging about himself, but he's either going to lose next week or win again, and it still won't do anything.
The irony here, John, is that we always figure in the WWE what they're trying to do as far as making money goes, right? Because that's what the WWE is all about. They're all about the bottom line. They're all about the merch sales and the ticket sales and all that stuff. And that's what the wrestling business as a whole really is. What the hell do they think they're achieving with this match? Do they think that they're going to make more money after this match with either one of these guys than they would have before it?
I have to agree with you. I mean, when
because
I
can understand the Rusev Mark Henry thing. I get the Rusev Mark Henry thing because you get Rusev to really establish his dominance over a guy bigger than him, which isn't an easy thing to do. I get that, but this is Bad News Barrett, a guy who at one time was competing with John Cena and Randy Orton for the WWE Championship, squashing Zack Ryder. And the worst thing is, not even squashing him super convincingly, Zack Ryder got off a frickin' broski boot.
Yeah. I mean, this wasn't even like a dominant or decisive win for Barrett.
Well, I would say it was decisive, but dominant, definitely not.
Yeah. I mean, Zack Ryder definitely put up a fight. Yeah. And it's just such a shame because I am, I wouldn't say huge King Barrett fan, but I enjoy the guy's work. I was at one time when it was the whole Barrett Barrage. God, I love that Barrett Barrage gimmick.
Well, the Barrett Barrage and the original Bad News gimmick, too.
Yeah, the Bad News gimmick we all loved. I just feel like this guy's been through God, look at me, no pun intended, a barrage of themes, a barrage of identities, yeah. And I think he can make
They found the one that works, and then they went away from it.
Yeah. They really did. I remember.
I missed the podium.
I missed and you did some amazing fantasy booking on some past episodes as well, and it was Bad News Barrett. I'm just like, man, this guy could have had it.
He could have been a modern right to censor. Because with the right to censor, their whole thing was they were basically the WWE's scapegoat for going to basically transitioning out of the Attitude Era. Anytime somebody would do something that was Attitude Era-esque, Out comes right to censor. They annoy the hell out of everyone. They tell them that it's not, that they have to censor it and all that stuff, and it ruins everybody's day. But at least you're getting that heat on somebody. Bad News Barrett could have been the modern version of that. He could have been a contemporary version of that, where anytime the WWE made a booking decision that the people didn't like, anytime somebody got injured and the people love that person, they don't want to see them get injured, anytime anything negative happens ever, you could have Bad News Barrett come out and tell them that news, and it gives him nuclear heat. He could be the freaking champion, and he could have weekly bad news addresses where he talks about everything negative in the news, not even just in the WWE, but in the news in general that happened the week before.
Absolutely. Such potential for this gimmick. And
they were
really,
in San Jose tonight. He could have talked about the drought.
Yeah, really. You know what, Ashton? I just got to say as a closing note to this match, and then I want to move on. I mean, that's the one word I'm really beginning to hate us talking about is potential. Because I feel like whether it's a Solomon Crow or a King Bear, we always talk about, but the potential. I'm tired of talking about potential. Do something. Yeah. I want to see it.
It's like I said earlier, man. And I've been saying this for a while now. The WWE doesn't want to make new stars. If they wanted to, they could have had dozens by now. They're not interested in making new stars, though, because they've been burned too many times. They got burned by The Rock. He went to Hollywood. They got burned by Austin. He took his ball and went home. They got burned by Lesnar once when he left for UFC, which, I mean, originally he went for NFL and then went to UFC. They just keep getting burned by these guys that they've put all the cards or all the chips in on. And ever since then, I mean, at first it was 4 guys. It was 4 guys that they pushed. And it was Edge, Batista, Orton, and Cena. And they haven't picked a single guy since then to fully get behind. It's almost like they are actually waiting for John Cena to retire and force them to make a new star in order for them to actually do it.
And, to be fair, maybe one would argue that, they tried doing that with Roman Reigns, but the fans, kind of soured on him. And I could see that to a degree.
If they want it, here's the thing, John. I appreciate the sentiment, and I understand where you're coming from. If they wanted to make Roman Reigns a star, the writers are intelligent enough to do it without Looney Tunes jokes.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with you there. That's a fair contention to make. Absolutely.
I mean, we always say what we want about, WWE doesn't know what they're doing. These people get paid to creatively write intelligent, not even intelligent, interesting stories that people will want to watch. You don't get to a position where you're getting paid to do that without knowing what you're doing in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, guys, that's just it. Wrestling, like all other shows, it's this narrative. I mean, this one show that me and Ashton are really into, Mr. Robot, so freaking good, by the way, for those of you.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, quick plug.
And then, honestly, I'm 90% sure that everybody listening to this knows at least of Mr. Robot because of how much attention it was getting on Raw in the month or two building up to its debut.
And looking back, totally deserved. But
yeah, because that's the thing. Because it seemed like on every single episode of Raw, they would show trailers and teasers for Mr. Robot. So anybody listening to this probably at least knows of it, if not also watches it as well as us. And it's incredible. It is one of my favorite shows ever, and we're only like 4 or 5 episodes in.
But I'm gonna tell you something that that Chris told me, and I'm gonna bring it back to wrestling. I promise. He said what makes Mr. Robot work is that everything they reference about hacking is accurate. Like they did their homework. You know what I mean? I'm asking WWE to do their homework. And by that I mean really listen to your crowds. Know what works. You knew Bad News Barrett was working. Why did you run away from it?
Because he was a heel.
Because he was a heel.
They were listening to their crowds. They were hearing the crowd cheering when they wanted them to boo. The WWE is far more interested in the crowd reacting the way they want them to than making money. I mean, I don't know if you remember this, but I told you there was a podcast on, I think it was F4W Online or something like that, where a guy who had experience in the WWE came on, and he said about how in the 90s, it was after, I want to say WrestleMania 9 or 10, a main event. I think the main event was Bret Hart and Diesel or something like that. Of a WrestleMania. I don't even know if that was a main event for WrestleMania, but it was after a huge show where that was the main event. And no, you know what? It was the 60-minute Broadway between Michaels and Bret Hart. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
And at one point, people were emptying out of the arena in the middle of the main event. And someone said something to Vince, and Vince said that he would rather have half of an arena full of people cheering for who he wants them to cheer and booing who he wants them to boo than a full arena of an arena full of people doing whatever the hell they want.
I remember you telling me that, and I actually got shudders down my spine the first time you told me that.
It's
Uh,
horrifying to think of, but again, it all comes back to this carny mentality of we manipulate your feelings, you feel how we want you to feel, and if you don't, we don't want your money.
and that's just, and you know what? You know what? Fine. To kind of quote Cesar from the preceding segment, challenge accepted. For the writers, come up with ways for Barrett to get that heat. You on, I think, maybe all in one Twitwell episode, or certainly like maybe span out to a couple, you would pick out certain moments like, oh, if they only did this with BNB, or if they, remember when Daniel Bryan couldn't compete in the Rumble and he had Rey
Yep.
Mysterio come out last,
He
you
could have
should have
been
had
30th.
BNB come out last.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you did it. You did it. So to me, like, I don't want to denigrate
But again,
the writers.
maybe that comes back to maybe they feel like that would have gotten him too over, and they don't want anybody to be too over because as soon as anybody gets up in that John Cena range of the entire arena reacting to you, they knock you down a few pegs.
I feel like we could keep having this discussion. I feel like this could be a commentary in itself.
It could.
But yeah, I feel like we should move on here because I mean, I do have more to say. I do. It's just I don't think this is the time or the place. Just a
Well, how
real
about if we
tragedy.
do this, ladies and gentlemen? If you're interested in hearing our take on the WWE's lack of creativeness and their intentional inability to make new stars, let us know in the comments section, and we might just do that one day. Maybe after G1 and we have our lives back.
And my sanity, just as a quick side note
That's
there,
it, yeah.
and my sanity. But yeah,
right.
I could keep going with you, Ashton. But yeah,
Yeah.
just a real tragedy for Bad News Barrett here.
Well, and the great thing is we go from one segment that we didn't care for at all to, and I know you said earlier that Ms. TV was your segment of the night. My personal segment of the night